All I know is that Coldplay is the U2 of our generation.
It's quite amazing.
Ask not what your
voice
can do for you.
Music blaring in my ears.
You can't do it.
Trying to decipher how Coldplay is the U2. I get it when you said it again.
You get it this time?
You get it this time.
Okay.
Well, you said it more clearer this time.
Yeah.
When you said Coldplay is today what U2 today used to be.
Yeah.
That still doesn't make any sense.
It makes perfect sense.
It does. It does. All right.
Yo. We're back.
We're back. Look at this studio we got going on.
Oh, yeah.
We've
Check
been
the new
teasing
digs.
a studio for a couple months, honestly.
We definitely have.
But as you can see, it takes a while to build a studio this good.
It does.
Into this, especially when it's only Mike doing
Especially when I'm doing it alone. But it's come together.
It is coming together nice. Mike, good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, everyone.
Should we take this time to announce future things? Why we built a big studio?
Right. Yeah, I think it's perfect time.
Let's do it. No big rush.
Yeah.
Or
there's
a rush?
There's a perfect time.
Yeah.
I'm not rushed.
Yeah.
I don't want you to feel like you're pressuring me into this.
They're not. We just want to let you know.
To break the news.
Break the news. The Haas Boys has been such a fun podcast we've enjoyed doing for about 2 years.
Yeah.
In some podcast lifetimes, that's like 10 seasons. Honestly, we've done a lot of episodes.
We've done more episodes than most podcasts.
Been a fun journey.
Yeah.
But we are switching. We're changing up the name.
We're switching gears on the name.
On the name.
Yeah.
Everything needs a gear shift, honestly.
Totally.
If you just burn out first gear,
then you got to move on.
So we're moving on to second gear.
Yes.
Fast Ones Show. That is the new name.
That's the new name.
We are going to be the Fast Ones.
The Fast Ones.
So we hope that you have enjoyed your time with the Haas Boys.
Yes.
Because we have enjoyed our time.
And
it's still going on.
And it's still a thing.
Yeah.
Just so you are all aware and obviously very confident in us that we're going to always be Haas fans.
Yes, always. Do you see this?
Max
Scarf.
has got the logo on his chair.
No, seriously. I was telling Mike earlier, I was like, I only care about two things in Formula One.
Yes.
It's Daniel Ricciardo.
Yes.
And Haas.
Right.
That's it.
I mean, I kind of knew that.
Yeah. And so we will continue to always be Haas fans.
And I think it's funny. I mean, look, when we started the podcast, I'm going to break it down a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll roll the clock back.
Yeah.
We obviously love Gunter.
Yeah.
And it was Max's idea.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if we started a podcast and we were the only Haas fans?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, that'd be really funny.
And they're like, well, what if we did?
And so we were like, we'll start the podcast. So we started the podcast.
Yeah. As Haas fans. And
we ended up being like such genuine Haas fans.
Yeah.
Like
we saw a need. Americans needed a team to root for.
Right.
And there were no one taking notice of Haas.
Nobody was caring.
Wouldn't it be hilarious?
Yeah.
This would give us a good chance.
Yeah.
To start up something fun. Maybe we could get into the pit at Haas F1.
Maybe they'll like us.
Maybe they'll like us.
Maybe they'll be like, they're funny, we're quirky, we work together.
Yeah.
So, you know, when those teen movies where the relationship between the guy and the girl.
They've made a bet. They've made a bet off a joke.
Yeah.
Can we take this nerdy girl and make her prom queen?
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days storyline.
She's all that.
Yeah.
How many Buy Me Love.
How many
My
of these
Fair
movies
Lady.
have
No,
the
it's
exact
seriously a derivative storyline.
Yeah.
I've watched all of them.
And in those stories, what always happens? They always end up actually falling in love.
Yeah.
And we fell in love with Haas.
You take the nerdy glasses off of Haas F1, and it's a
smoke
fine
show.
looking
It's a
F1
smoke show.
It is. Especially when Nico Holgerberg came on.
Oh, man. Kennergy's strong with that guy.
Yeah,
he's a handsome devil.
Yeah, we got rid of Mazepin, and Haas started looking good.
He started looking real nice. So, just so you guys know, we will forever be Haas fans.
We'll
all
forever
that to
be Haas
say.
fan. I mean, one of the things that has prompted us to kind of, with the name change, is it opens us up to more of the world of motorsport. In the past year, we've been diving into more things like NASCAR, IndyCar, and so we get more questions about it. And we want to reach out to more of those people, but they've been kind of turning us down because we are like Haas.
We literally have a sponsor that exists in their sport.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I can't do anything with that because I have contracts.
Somewhat limiting.
Yes.
Anyway, so we hope to get some of those people on, which will be fun for the future. So
Definitely.
we're hoping you stick around.
Yep.
Can I mention one of the biggest successes from the Haas boys?
Yes. I'm actually really anxious to hear this.
I mean, also like, rest in peace to Parker.
Yes.
We're still trying to track him down in Russia.
Yes.
He will always be a Haas boy with us, and he will be on the show in the future, for sure.
No question.
But our biggest success, I would like to say, has been the Haas chap.
Yeah, for sure. What a discovery.
Honestly, he's done more with the Haas name than we did.
Yeah, he's gone on to be a member of that team, essentially.
Yeah, it helps that he's in Europe.
Yes, definitely.
He's closer to Gunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He and the Goons.
He's usually within like 1 or 2 time zones of Gunter. Can you imagine how that feels?
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know how it's possible.
Feels so good.
But England's closer to North Carolina than Utah is.
That's weird. Yeah,
might
that's
be.
true.
I actually
it's
don't
actually
know.
probably true. It's probably true.
It's probably true.
Yeah. But I
So-
can't even imagine what that feels like. Anyway, all to say that very proud of the fact that the Haas chap has done a lot.
He's done a ton.
We've talked with him, and hopefully he's still on board. That he is going to be our resident Haas correspondent.
He is.
We've used him at Silverstone,
Yeah.
and he crushed
It
it.
was the best thing that's happened to us.
So, I mean, as listeners, come along with us as we transition to the fast ones. If you have questions, always send us in those questions. We're going to have some new emails and stuff sent out. And if you have Haas questions that you want answered by the Haas chap, please specifically mention that.
And also, if you have things that you want to complain about, like us changing the name,
Yeah.
you can also direct those
Yeah.
to the Haas Chop.
Any complaints can go to the Haas chap.
And maybe Haas Chop, which is, it's a shop where they
gonna love
chop up
this.
some cars with a
Yeah.
Haas CNC machine.
He's going to love this.
So anyways,
But there you go. There's the big news.
that is a big news.
Yeah, the studio's going to keep getting better.
Definitely.
Podcast is in the show is going to grow. So we hope you enjoy it. But let's move on to what we normally do.
Let's move on.
Talk about the motors and the sports.
Let's move on to the sport motors.
And the only news that we want to talk about is the news that is breaking our hearts. Going back to one of the 2 things I love about the sport.
Shattering
is
hearts.
Friggin' Daniel
and
Ricciardo.
hands.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Tell me what you were experiencing that day, Max. I want to
What I was
hear about the
experiencing?
gloomy, at the what you felt like when you
I
woke
wasn't
up in the
gloomy.
morning.
I just
You
remember.
weren't?
I remember him going around that corner in practice. It was practice, right?
Yep.
And Piastris had freaking just like
Bend it.
perpendicular in the track
Yeah.
around a pretty blind banked corner.
Yeah.
And afterwards, Daniel Ricciardo ditched it into the side to avoid hitting this doofus in the middle of the track.
Right.
And I kept thinking, it's dark thoughts, but I'm like, he should have just T-boned him.
Should have just
He
taken
should
him
have
out.
Taken him out and left the real Aussie in the sport.
And some kind of payback
The
for
one
like his
Aussie we
previous
wanted.
seat and
Yeah.
all these things.
All
but
these mixed emotions
Right.
and thoughts of vengeance. And it's like, it was right there, Daniel.
it was there.
No, but
for
we
the taking.
No. Play the long game.
Play the long game.
Daniel Hill, but in the moment, I am just gutted. Just gutted.
It was brutal. The news that we know at this stage
Yeah.
is that Daniel did break his left hand, I
Yeah.
believe, right?
Yeah.
And that he was flown to Spain, not my words, to get a decent hand job. And so
A job for the hand.
he just needed his hand worked on.
He got his hand jobbed up.
That's what they call it here in Utah.
Yeah. I don't know why.
No, a few friends.
Don't know
have
why
had-
everyone's out there cringing or
Yeah.
revolting at that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems
family
like
friendly.
Makes perfect sense to me. That's why it would be called that.
Do you want to know what I watched this weekend? I watched Talladega Nights
Oh,
again.
yes.
I've seen it like once or twice. And I always thought like, oh, Daniel Ricciardo is the Ricky Bobby of Formula One.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Ricky Bobby breaks his left hand in that movie, doesn't he?
Yeah, because he won't say that he likes crepes.
That's right. And he breaks his arm. Yeah.
They're like very thin pancakes.
Yeah, just say
I'll
it.
accept that. If you say that you like very thin pancakes, that works for me.
So Daniel Ricciardo is like Ricky Bobby. Ricky
Yes.
Bobby does come back
He does.
and he does win.
It's the ballad of Ricky Bobby.
And this is the ballad of Danny Ricky.
Yeah,
So
Ricky Danny.
Ricky Danny.
How's that not been a thing yet?
We're going to do it.
Yeah, Ricky Danny.
Okay.
Oh, man, the ballad of Ricky Danny.
But can you
Help me, Tom Cruise.
When I was like super bummed about it, I think we were talking and I was just so gutted. We just got him back
Just came back.
and he, like fresh off the summer break. Finally, he's like official. I feel like it was official now.
Right.
He kind of jumped into the seat real quick.
Right.
Now it's like, he's had like more thought behind this and we're ready to go, and then breaks his hand. But you had a good insight on like why it's not the worst place to break your hand.
Right. Yeah.
Which I thought this was like really good to hear for those of us who are holding on for hope.
Yeah, totally.
That he'll return.
Well, Michael Italiano, which was his former physio, which is kind of like your trainer.
Yeah.
And his best friend is now working with Yuki Tsunoda.
How dare he?
So yeah, but he's still in the paddock, and so he knows everybody. And recently they were asking him like what they felt, what they were thinking about Daniel, what was the likelihood of return. There's been some developments since then, but when they went in to do the surgery, essentially the idea is that because it was the outside of the metacarpal bone, which is I believe what it's called, because it's that like bottom side of your hand.
Yeah.
It's obviously sensitive, but you don't lean on it when you turn.
Uh-huh.
And so when you're experiencing high G-force, it's usually kind of the more fatty part towards like your thumb.
Yeah, imagine just gripping something right now.
Right.
You feel it all in the upper part of your hand.
You're not really using that inner lower part of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael Italiano's perspective was that this is probably the best part to have a break.
Yeah.
Given that once you recover, that's not going to be an overly sensitive part that you're going to experience pain with.
Uh-huh.
The struggles moving forward are that the racetracks that would be kind of on the radar as potential returns are Singapore, which is a brutal race for everyone.
Yeah.
Your hands and legs are tired when you're perfect, when you're perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
And then Suzuka, which is pretty similar in the sense of
they just bowl. I know
very
Singapore
physical
is
racetracks
hard because it's notoriously hot and humid.
Right. And it's a road course.
Okay.
So it's a street circuit, excuse me. And so it's just really bumpy. It's really hot. And it's a long race under the lights. It's still in the 40 degrees Celsius, like 90s to 100s.
Wario Stadium of the circuit.
It kind of is.
Calendar.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And there's fireball rings that you have to drive through. And
Singapore's nuts.
It's just pretty gnarly. But and then they go to Suzuka, which Suzuka is just really high G-force. There's just a lot of really like high speed turns, and it's a driver's circuit, so it's really physical.
Yeah,
and you know, there's some of the corners are cambered and kind of like NASCAR bank at moments. They're not as aggressive as like Zandvoort, but there's definitely some camber to them. Anyways, the point being that both of those tracks are pretty aggressive. They're not like mild by any means. And so returning and coming back to like that kind of circuit, it might be after Japan, which is a bummer.
And what's after Japan?
That's a great question. Let's look at our calendar.
We have a nice calendar here. Nice shirt, by the way, Mike.
Yeah, that's a nice shirt you got there.
Donka. The Qatar Grand Prix.
Qatar.
Yeah.
And that one is a actual like racetrack. It's more modern. It was developed. It's been mostly run by MotoGP in the previous few years.
Okay.
But during the COVID calendar was added.
Oh.
And
so it could be a nice little entryway for Dan to come back in.
Definitely a lot less aggressive on like the over physicality in the sense of that wear and tear on his healing wounds.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, but we wish him the speediest of recoveries.
Yeah.
And we know that Liam Lawson is doing a Liam Lawson job. An awesome job is the bad joke there.
Oh, I did not hear the pun at all.
I was like
Liam Lawson
he's
job.
doing a awesome job.
He's doing what he would do. He is Liam Lawson.
He's doing a great job, honestly. And an interesting take on that is that I actually think that that's more concerning for Yuki than it is for Danny.
Okay, here's your hot take.
That was Helmut Marko. And speaking of Helmut Marko, this is why it's my hot take. Yuki Tsunoda has been in the seat at AlphaTauri now for what, 3 seasons?
Is this his third? Yeah.
In his first season, he crashed quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they switched the car.
Okay.
And so the second season, he crashed quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so he kind of got the double dose of rookie year, like everyone was, where they went from flat floor race cars to the new ground effects F1 cars.
Okay.
And in that transition, there was a lot of change for like Mick Schumacher and Yuki Tsunoda.
Okay, yeah.
And so with that happening, Yuki went through 2 gnarly seasons, but this third season, something has happened with Yuki that I can commend him on. He's become an epic defender. I don't think that he's like going out there and making passes because the car hasn't been great on passing.
Yeah.
But because the car isn't really fast, if he qualifies well, you're bummed that you're behind Yuki.
Okay.
Because he's going to make life very difficult to get past
points.
him.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's one thing that I can commend him on. But with those 3 seasons under his belt, there's a lot of money spent in damaged parts and things that are kind of, as I like to think of Helmut Marko, he has short-term memory loss for your last good performance, but
he just
also
focuses on the negative.
He just harbors everything bad. Right.
That sounds accurate to that kind of personality.
Totally.
Yeah.
And with Liam Lawson coming in and doing 2 races, and in those 2 races, flawless. He hasn't gotten points. He hasn't been shocking the world with what he's doing.
But he is still cheaper than Yuki.
But he hasn't crashed anything.
Yeah, he still is saving more money than Yuki has.
Right. And so I think there's an interesting thing here in the sense that Daniel is injured. When he was at Zandvoort, he was running up there in the top 10 of the timesheets for practice before he crashed.
Yeah, he was great.
It seemed like he was going to put together a good weekend for himself. And although that this is a bummer and a setback, I can see Red Bull potentially adding a kind of a different equation behind the scenes and a little less focused on the guy who broke his hand and a little bit more focused on the guy who's currently in the seat that can measure against Liam. It's more of a detriment to Yuki
just has a little bit different pressure now that Danny's on.
Right. And I think he was under pressure with Danny. So I mean, I think either way, this is a tough situation for him.
Interesting. Wild stuff. I'm hopefully he gets back on the track soon.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens to Yuki.
See what happens moving forward.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Zandvoort.
Yes.
Let's talk about Zandvoort, which was a fun race.
So good.
Holy cow.
Man,
it was like we put all of the drivers in like that Boggle game. And every 2 minutes we were shaking it up.
Seriously.
It was wild.
Like Boggle or a bingo roller.
Yeah.
You're just spitting numbers out and you're like, 22.
And no matter what order came out, eventually number 1, Max Verstappen, would just creep his way to the front.
He would just lead.
And then just get back and creep his way to the front.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What was it? I think I sent you the stat. The number of passes.
Yes, you did send us this.
Was a record-breaking number for
overtakes in a race.
In one race.
It's now the most.
It has
the race that has the most overtakes ever. Which is wild. Well, it makes sense. I mean, everyone was just shuffled around. If you missed the race, go back and watch highlights. And we can thank the rain for causing so much trouble.
So much trouble.
And they had 2 major downpours during the whole race.
I love the term, and it's not an American thing. And we have been stealing from the British since Formula One has risen to power.
Yeah.
But chucking it down is the only way that can be described as some of those rainstorms. It was literally being thrown at the earth.
It is amazing to watch a race like that. Just to see the track start out dry.
Right.
Then just get dumped on.
Right.
Completely wet. And then after like 10 or so laps, it's dry enough again that they're racing normally.
Right.
And then it gets dumped on again. And just to see like the power of those wheels to displace water. Also, that it dries pretty quick.
Right.
It's just amazing.
This weekend was one of those times where Ferrari got a bad rap because Charles Leclerc pulled into the pits. Tires weren't ready. And he changed tires or whatever.
Such a freak one-off incident. I have never known Ferrari to butcher a pit stop.
I wasn't sure if you were serious at first.
Yeah, just very out of character for Ferrari.
But was
it because Binotto was on track?
No, but he was at Monza.
He was in Monza.
But what happened though is that truth be told, Ferrari told him to stay out.
Yeah.
He came in because he knew that he was going to lose more time being on track than waiting for tires.
Yeah.
So Charles is the one that is like, I know that I'm going to sit.
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
But still, I mean, your crew should be on the same page as you.
Seems like they should have known.
Get in here, man.
Yeah. But here's the stat. Netherlands 2023 had 186 overtakes. The next closest race was China 2016 with 170. And
those are lots of overtakes.
Yeah, and then third was 2012, fourth was 2011, and
China,
fifth 2011.
what year?
2016.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, these races are not close together. And so for one of these current races to be on that list shows the improvement of the sport.
Were any of those in 2021?
None of them.
Oh.
It's 2016 all the way back to 2011.
Dang it. I was going to make a joke that all 170 of the one in 2021 was everyone passing Mazepin 170 times.
186 passes.
Yeah, it was wild.
Pretty crazy. The race was just an absolute mess. It was so fun to watch.
And then really fun to see Alonso fighting that whole race.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Because near the end, Sergio Perez stayed out. I don't know if it was his call or the team's call.
Right.
But then he went out of bounds. Like he went off track.
Right.
Alonso took over his space.
Right.
And that caused Sergio that podium, right?
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah, Sergio spun it going into turn 1 and backed into the wall.
These things are just like slowly adding up for poor Sergio.
Yeah.
Helmet is remembering those awful moments.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
And something just we got so much to talk about. We got so much to talk about.
Well, I think there's only one other thing to talk about, really. And
yes, I have one. You know,
Ferrari made McDonald's outfits again for Monza. I don't know what else has happened in Formula One.
You're right. They did
since our last recording of the podcast.
They once again look like they were serving ketchup and mustard.
Anyway, back to
no, but so here's the other thing, and this is something that happened during the summer break, or at least some of the rumors started to kind of grumble.
Yes,
and we haven't talked about it now on the Haas boys. We've changed. This is the one thing that we've changed.
Yes,
moving forward. We won't make fun of Lance Stroll as often.
Did we both agree on this?
Okay, I'm kidding.
I was like, no, Michael, no.
No,
Michael, this is not right.
No, Michael, this is so not right. Oh, no, I'm kidding.
But because he's not going to be around much longer?
That's probably why.
That's too bad.
Even then, I'll still make fun of him.
Yeah.
But essentially, we have kind of pointed it out all year long that Fernando is killing it.
Yep.
Absolutely killing it in the Aston Martin. And Lance has had moments, but they haven't been very often.
Yeah.
And on
There's
top of that,
a very, very big difference. It's always like Alonso's in the top 5. Lance is in the bottom 5.
Right.
It's a very, very wide gap.
Stark contrast. And something that's becoming ever more apparent, and because it's starting to actually affect Daddy's pocketbook more than the allowance that he gives Lance and calls a salary.
Yep.
Is that in the Constructors' Championship, Aston Martin, who was second,
they're just behind Mercedes now, huh?
4th.
They're 4th now.
Ferrari has overtaken.
Maybe I looked up before the race this weekend.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So it is Red Bull,
where these things come into play.
Mercedes, Ferrari, then Aston Martin.
Dang, because before this weekend, they were just barely behind Mercedes in 3rd place.
Yep.
See, if you have Lance placing consistently in the top 10,
then this isn't a problem.
Fine.
This isn't a problem.
Ooh.
And so it's starting to play some effect on it. And the rumors start coming out about Lance, and the way that they're coming out is very funny. It's like, well, Lance might want to try his hand at tennis.
Oh.
It's not that Lance is being destroyed by a 2-time world champion and potentially one of the greatest F1 drivers of all time.
Yeah.
It's, well, Lance might want to try his hand at tennis.
Yeah, they're gonna help him leave gracefully.
Right.
Yes.
Like Latifi. Latifi just made an announcement during the summer break that instead of continuing his racing career, he's going back to college.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
And so it's like, oh, good for you, Latifi. It's because nobody wanted you.
Yeah. I feel like we're getting rid of all the billionaire boys.
They're going.
That is wild.
And something that's funny about that is how frequently everyone's talking about how the talent in F1 has never been better.
Jeez. Yeah,
because
this is an amazing thing.
It's an amazing time in the sport because the billionaire buy a seat thing is dead.
Well, I mean, this is what happens when you have so many people coming into the sport and loving it and being fans of it. And then these owners buying into these companies.
Right.
You're like, no, we're not giving this kid a shot.
Right.
Let's get the best driver because I own this company.
Right.
There's tons of sponsors on this car.
And they don't need to fight for those sponsors anymore. And part of the billionaire boy appeal for a Williams was that it's like, well, you're going to bring money. Bring the money with you.
Those
and then
Williams, the Haas's are worth billions in themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, we don't need the billionaire boys anymore. We just need damn good drivers.
Yep.
And suddenly the field is within tenths of a second qualifying against each other. And there's just no room for anyone who's not delivering.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately Lance Stroll.
My friend Josh, he's a fan of the podcast, the show.
Yeah.
He better be a fan of the fast ones now.
Yeah, I better come with us.
Also, the new attitude of the fast ones is aggressive and in your face.
We're not grateful for fans. We expect them.
This is the Alpha podcast.
Oh my gosh.
We are Alpha Motorsport.
We're super alpha fast ones.
We are, who's the Alpha car company? We are the Chevy Camaro
Oh yeah.
of podcasts.
We pretty much are like, we are a transformer.
What is the Alpha car company? That is like that ugly Alpha bro.
It's totally
mentality.
Tesla.
Is it Tesla?
It's either Tesla or Ram.
Yeah.
It's like Ram pickups.
Built Ford to
or Tesla.
Dodge Ram with the new HDMI backverter imports.
HDMI. It's got a video
The
cable.
new Chevy Dodge with HDMI
It's got a Hemi
imports.
in it. Got a Hemi.
Got a Hemi with a CPU processor V812.
Love that.
The Chevy Dodge.
When Max tries to go technical on a car, it's like computer specs keep
the
spitting out
Dodge
of his head.
Chevrolet.
The Dodge Chevy.
I've always thought it'd be funny if a car company named one of their cars
Like another car company.
Yeah.
Totally.
the Ford Chevrolet.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
Can you do that?
I also feel like Chevrolet and like, you're Detroit based. Who gave you the right to name something Colorado
Yeah.
or
sure.
Silverado
You gotta.
or anything that's not out of Detroit?
You can't tell me it didn't work.
It did work, and it's still working, my friend.
Yeah. What the hell were we talking about?
I don't know. Built Chevy like a rock.
Oh yeah, my friend sent me a video today of all of the drivers leaving the driver briefing at probably Monza.
Oh, okay.
Because the Ferrari drivers were dressed like McDonald's workers. And they're all leaving.
And everybody's like, do you want some fries?
Yeah. They're all leaving like in groups, like laughing and chatting with each other, all the drivers, buddy, pals or whatever. And then there's a little break and all of them have left. And then 2 seconds later, Lance just walks out alone. Just sad.
Hey, guy. All right, I'll see you later.
I'll see you on the track.
Yeah.
So it was kind of sad.
Dude,
I feel bad.
I do too, except it don't.
Ooh. What else can we talk about?
I'll cut that.
Zandvoort. No, that was amazing. Leave it in. Zandvoort was so fun.
It was so great. We can move
I don't
past
know what
it.
else to talk about besides like go watch the highlights if you haven't seen it.
It was so good.
We've talked about it before. There hasn't been a lot of crashes this year.
No.
And
that only had one.
Yeah.
That race only had one, and it was Logan.
Yeah.
Plan L.
It's too bad. I want Logan to succeed.
I know, and honestly,
no one else in the world does.
It's what
like apart from the US people.
Totally.
The US market wants that.
And honestly, he has been performing at times. Like I've
Yeah.
been surprised at Zandvoort. He had a good qualifying until he crashed.
Uh-huh.
But when you think about Logan next to Alex Albon, who's a great driver,
Yeah.
you are like, and a car that is kind of on edge.
Mm-hmm.
When Logan dips a wheel into some wet pavement
Yeah.
during qualifying or during the race and spins it and smashes the car to bits, it's like, yeah, well, Mick Schumacher got that grace in his first season.
Yeah.
Like that is where the grace comes in. It's like,
Mhm.
well, you missed it by the margin of error is very slim.
Yeah.
Don't make mistakes like that. Moving on.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I think he's, again, now that the Williams has been more competitive, his qualifying
Mhm.
results have been pretty impressive.
Yeah. And we haven't had a lot of like crazy mix up crash races this year.
We really haven't.
And so this was a fun departure from that, which
Definitely.
has been good to see. That takes us to Monza. That just happened. I love the Italian Grand Prix.
I don't
It's
know
so
how
fun.
it's become the wild card of the season,
Yeah.
but it is just so good since 21.
Yeah, it's been wild. And why is that? Because it's just whoever has no downforce.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely a big part of how
I
a
have no
car
idea why
performs
it
at
is,
Monza.
but it seems like it's a fun race. It's the temple of speed. You told me that when I first learned about racing. This is the temple of speed. And
It is.
as I've watched more seasons, I'm like, it is so real.
Yeah.
Some of these other tracks, they feel slower. You have these chicanes all over the place, or these turns and corners and hairpins. They're technical and fun, but for Monza, you look at that track and there's like one chicane.
Yeah.
And the rest is just these sweeping long turns that you can do flat out, mixed with straightaways.
Right.
And that's why you get these such fun, fast races. And I was telling Mike, at the beginning before we were starting recording, there was a lot of good shots of the one corner chicane. It's not like a very sharp chicane.
Right.
You got to look up the name of it. Just these sweeping S turns, and watching the drivers hit those at full speed. Just, watch those cars hold on to those corners and make their way through. It was a really fun sight to see. It's just a fun track.
Oh, it's the Ascari chicane, which is
Ascari chicane. Yep, that's the one.
The Ascari chicane is the one that's before you get to the Parabolica.
Yeah.
And man, yeah, you're right. That section is so high speed. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best like flowing parts of the track.
Yeah. So cool. Just a gorgeous place. Gorgeous race.
Well, and because of the storms that Italy has had this year, the Monza park lost 10,000 trees.
Oh, man.
In these storms.
That is a lot of trees.
I'm like, how many trees do you have that you can lose 10,000?
I will say it's a giant park that track sits in.
Yeah.
It is huge.
I remember that was one of the things that like, and for those of you who may be new to the podcast might not know, Max and Parker went to the 2021 Monza Grand Prix.
Yeah. And
one of the things that they came back with that they were telling me was just how beautiful the park is.
It's gorgeous.
That the racetracks, and you kind of like walk through this beautiful central park.
Yeah.
But you can hear F1 cars.
Oh, it's amazing.
That's the craziest thing.
We were there with our friend Devin, who's a fan of the podcast.
Yeah.
And he went off into the trees looking for a geocache. And we left him there.
And you're like,
we didn't see him for 5-6 hours. That's not even lying.
Good luck. Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
When you said that there was trees that were wiped out, I'm like, oh man, Devin would have loved that. He would have found that geocache a lot sooner. There hadn't been such a thicket of trees.
But so much simpler.
But it's a gorgeous place. It was a good race.
Yeah, amazing.
The results were predictable.
But I like, man,
but still wild cardy. I mean,
yeah, in the sense that especially going off of Zandvoort last week, where Fernando was competing for the win, and the Ferraris were kind of nowhere. Leading into Monza, not that they're the same circuit because they're very different, but heading into Monza, there is still an element of momentum that I would not have put the momentum card in Ferrari's court. I just did not expect that kind of qualifying performance from them. And then to go with that, I didn't expect that kind of qualifying performance to be outdone by Carlos Sainz. Charles is a master class of qualifying. The guy, we've talked about it in the past, he's either in the wall or he's on pole.
Okay.
And if he has the opportunity for pole, it's one or the other. He's in the wall or he's on pole.
Yeah.
And this was one of the few times where he didn't crash and Carlos beat him.
Yeah.
And that was really impressive to me.
We mentioned on this podcast that I feel that Charles Leclerc has fallen off.
Oh, definitely.
And Carlos Sainz has been this like silent driver, like this sleeper who's like, oh yeah, I am actually way better than Charles Leclerc.
Yeah. He's consistent
that we've talked about is the consistency that's making him good.
For sure.
And then to show up this weekend with a pole winning qualifying lap was crazy.
It was awesome. Yeah. And I was watching it with my kids and I was screaming. It was part of for their entertainment, but I was just like, Carlos!
Yeah.
And it just felt so good to finally not have a Red Bull on pole A and B, have a red car in Monza competing for that spot was just so epic. It was such, and especially after the year they've had,
be losing their minds. The Tifosi,
the Tifosi were for sure losing their minds
because people were like, "Well, we know that Max and Sergio won. Like, okay, but now for the real cars, it was a Ferrari 1-2 finish.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah,
and man, we go to the race, and the race was epic.
Yeah,
there was lots of shuffling, lots of pit stop strategy. Things were going down. It took Max, 13 laps or so to pass Carlos, which was epic. Carlos was a kidney stone this weekend. It was very painful and difficult to pass.
I remember watching it, and it seemed like Max was just happy to sit there patiently.
Yeah.
Because they came over the radio, and Max is like, wasn't it this race? Or he's like, Carlos's rear is slipping.
Yeah.
Just like, and Christian was just like, just wait.
Just do your thing.
So don't worry. We have this Red Bull car.
Yeah, totally.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Carlos is going to have to use every tool in his in his toolbox.
Yeah.
And every ounce of that tire to stay ahead.
Yeah.
Just wait for it to fade. And honestly, I think that Max showed a lot of maturity in that way, which was impressive. But also, man, Carlos's defending against Sergio, against Max, and against Charles was just like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, that was impressive stuff.
Dude, what's fun to see for me to watch is that the exit to the pit wall is like so crazy.
Oh yeah.
The action that happens right at that exit is nuts because it's at the end of that straight and goes right into the first corner, which is that first chicane.
Right.
Which is famous. That's where Lewis and Max crashed.
Yeah, totally.
Epic. And what's also interesting is that I've heard people say like, it's ridiculous to pass there. Like if you've ever done it on a simulator or played it in the F1 game,
so tight.
you don't pass there.
No.
But there were so many drivers that attempt to pass there.
Yeah, totally.
Like if you go for the gap.
Yep, totally.
And so I will.
And George Russell was just like, they pushed me off, and he's just like, just going through the track.
George Russell.
How many times did he do it this weekend?
I don't know.
He's like, they pushed me wide.
Yeah,
push me wide. It's like 4 laps that were 5 seconds shorter than they should have been because he was just shortcutting.
He's so funny.
He's just the worst.
Yeah, he's getting to be the worst.
Yeah. But you're not wrong.
Yeah.
It is it's almost greater than 90-degree right.
No, it is. I feel like if you look at it at some angles, the track almost goes backward a little bit.
Yeah.
Then it goes back on track. That's a chicane that I hate.
Yeah, it is super aggressive. And honestly, I think the reason that they did that, because the track used to go straight. Mm-hmm. But I think that the reason that they did that was because they were like, this is a super long straightaway.
Yeah, someone's going to kill someone.
Just put something here.
Yeah, they're like, we are going to start seeing cars flying off into the trees.
Well, and then they head into the Curva Grande, which is that
crazy
next big
sweeping corner.
Yeah, and so if they were going the full straightaway into Curva Grande, they'd be taking that thing going so fast.
Ooh, so fun.
And they could. And I think that that's part of the reason why they're like, yeah, maybe a chicane here is a good idea.
Yeah. It's fun to watch some of those drivers pass on those big sweeping corners, the Curva de Grande.
Yes.
Just like, they're gunning down each other.
Well, and something that we've talked about on this show in the past, or something that I brought up in the past. Here's me being serious for a moment.
Lewis is a butt.
Lewis Hamilton. It's amazing before I even got to it. Is that Lewis Hamilton, if you are on his outside, what does he do? He freaking crashes into you.
Yeah.
And Oscar Piastri and Lewis Hamilton going through Curva Grande.
Yeah. And
side by side.
And then into that.
And then into the next chicane.
Yep.
And Lewis decides, oh, Oscar's not there anymore. Just knocks the nose off of his car.
Yeah.
And it's just like, Lewis, what are you doing?
Yeah.
At least this time is one of the few times Lewis actually apologized.
Because he's not in contention for the championship.
Yeah, totally.
He's like,
yeah.
He's like, that was my fault.
I probably should go apologize
if it
to the
was
Australian
a different
kid.
year, that would not have been his fault.
Yeah, he'd have been like, I don't know what Oscar's thinking.
I had the line. I was ahead.
I'm the greatest ever. Still I rise.
Where's Angela?
It's still my corner. Still I rise through the corner.
Still I rise to the corner.
How dare you try to stop me from rising?
Yeah, exactly. Piastri is just taking me down.
So
we don't want to see that in this world.
I was trying to bring us down. It's not fair.
He's always trying to bring us down. Fun race.
Very good. Very good race. I like really genuinely enjoyed both of the last 2 races. I hope that the remainder of the year can keep it up.
Yeah.
We're on a real good roll of entertaining races. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't care that Max is winning. I did like in 10 wins in a row. Congratulations, Max. It's not stopping the party.
Yeah.
The entire field is in such a UFC cage match fight
yes.
that I don't care that there's a dude 20 seconds in the lead.
It really is wild how close these other drivers are with each other.
And they're having to really fight for every point, for every position.
Yeah.
And they can follow each other and they can do things that they never could do before. So I am going to continue to be the biggest salesman for the new regulations.
I love it.
They've killed it.
Cool. Well, shifting gears. I have a question for you.
I feel like I Blues Clues shifting gears each week.
Yeah. That's like a turbo. Here's a question for you, Mike. And this stems from, so my question for you is, which drivers that exist on the grid right now will we miss in 10 years?
Oh.
To say, like, after these drivers set has gone, which ones will we be missing?
Who are the Kimi Räikkönens of the future?
Because I came into the sport with Drive to Survive.
Right.
I do think Kimi was so cool.
Is the best.
Sebastian Vettel was so cool.
Oh, man.
Maybe because people were telling me that they were cool.
But you get to see it firsthand.
Got to see it.
Yeah.
And I'm sad that Kimi Räikkönen's not in the sport anymore and that Sebastian's not in the sport.
Totally.
You've been in here much longer.
Right.
And you have seen these drivers change from decade to decade to decade.
Right.
And when Daniel does eventually leave at some point in the future, I was like, whoa, what's the point?
Right. Yeah, like who else am I going to be excited to watch?
Who am I going to be excited about? And I've been enjoying watching Alonso race.
Totally.
So I guess maybe it's a two-part. Like, who you think you're going to miss? We can answer this too. And then, like, who are some drivers that you did miss and were sad when they were like gone, you know?
Right. I think that like a David Coulthard was like somebody who is like really enjoyable to have interviews with each week because he's just kind of a sassy dude.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of funny comments. I'm sure you've heard him he interviews post race and does things occasionally.
I know what you're talking about.
And but when he was a driver, he short fused and a lot of funny things to say. I mean, look, right out of the gate, Nico Hülkenberg just did a Beyond the Grid interview that came out today, the day that we're recording.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to it. And one of the things that I love about Hulk is that like Tom Clarkson interviews all of these legends. And he's an incredible reporter. The guy's so good. He always knows his stats. He's so prepared for the interview and he asks great questions.
Yeah.
And like every question that he asked, he would like fire it back at Tom and be like, that's kind of a dumb question, and like start picking it apart. And Tom would be like, Nico, stop it. And it just was like, it was killing me. It's so funny. And because his personality is just like, he is that dude. He's like, oh, you could have asked that better or whatever. And it's like, he's just demanding even the best of the reporter who's interviewing him.
Well, he's German.
Right.
So it's like, he has that like staunch kind of like direct attitude.
I could do it better.
But he also does have a little funny sense of humor.
Yeah, totally.
Which is uncharacteristic of what we think about with Germany.
Right. But he's very dry and funny.
Very dry.
Yeah. And so I think that he's kind of a silent killer because Kimi was so dry that every radio was just funny.
Yeah.
And so that was just played on TV because they're like, Kimi's talking, just play it. Just put it on air. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
And like Nico doesn't have that status, but I guarantee you that Nico's had funny crap all year and we just haven't heard it.
Yeah.
And so I think that like,
funny.
He'd be a dude that I'll miss for sure.
Yeah.
And again, Kimi and Sebastian are obviously clearly top of that list currently.
Yeah.
For me, Alonso will for sure be missed. And funny enough, I think that Lewis Hamilton will be a personality I miss.
Dude, I would agree.
And it's because I think that it also is like, it's fuel for so many other things.
Yeah.
He and Toto have been talking about how Max's 10 wins in a row is like irrelevant. It's a Wikipedia stat. And I'm kind of like, you guys are this. And Max's response was, I think Mercedes has a really tough time losing. and I was like, Max is not wrong.
Yeah.
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
Max would never have said that about Lewis.
Yeah.
Never would have said that. And now that Max is winning, he's just like, I don't know. I think they're sore losers. they're having a really hard time accepting second, you know?
Yeah.
And it is what it is. But like at the same time, like, yeah, I'm going to miss that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to miss the sore loser. The guy who comes over, bun on my tires. God, like that kind of crap is just funny to me.
I guess I started thinking about this question recently because I saw a video of, who was it? It was like George Russell and Lando Norris and Max Verstappen and someone else. It might have been like Carlos Sainz. They're all like playing paddleball together,
right?
Or I was probably Alex Albon or something.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, these guys are like friends. Like,
yeah, they're all homies.
Yeah, when Lewis is gone, who's gonna be like making them mad?
Yeah, who's the villain? Who's not the guy who hangs out with them?
Exactly. They're all. It seems like everyone on the grid is best friends now.
Yeah, it's just Lewis who's the king.
And it's like, we pick on Lewis.
But like he's such an important figure because of that.
You can't have a good movie without the Joker.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I'm like, and it's like, I'm not even trying
Batman
to peg him
sucks
as just
if
the
there's-
loser.
If there's no villains.
I'm not trying to peg him as just like the
He's
the
a
villain.
contrast. You need
But
contrast.
you need contrast, yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody's like too buddy right now.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we like the guy who's kind of like, no, I don't hang out with you.
And then the people that aren't buddy. Remember, I forgot Ocon was a driver. Like, there's just drivers. I'm like, oh, this guy's forgettable.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm not gonna miss him at all.
Right.
So I just wonder who those guys are. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be sad. I don't know. So in 10 years, like, is there anyone on the grid that's going to become the villain,
Well,
the Lewis,
and
the contrast?
Right. Well, and I think that what's something that I will speak to, because I'm sure that all of us kind of feel this way.
Yeah.
Fernando Alonso, as a little back, like just rewinding the clock to his days at McLaren, he's always been a joy. I'll put it that way. Fernando's always been great, but he hasn't always been as great as he is now. And same with Sebastian. Sebastian Vettel was kind of a punk when he was winning.
Mm.
And Fernando Alonso was kind of a punk.
Mm.
And it's like, man, you twist these guys a little bit in their age, and you start to dial them up to their 30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them they aged like fine wine.
So you think Max is going to be aging really well?
Potentially any of these guys.
Yeah.
Like right now, Lando's kind of a pompous kid.
He got real pompous.
And he started to irritate me. I liked him when he was like teenager annoying kid.
I like that too.
Yeah, but then when he's like grown into this 20-year-old, like shave the goatee, you're kind of a doofus, but you think you're cool.
He does think he's really cool.
Yeah, and like all that, I'm like, but maybe he ages well, and maybe he ends up being a David Coulthard or somebody that I'm like, I'll miss Lando when he retires.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard to see right now because
hard to
they're in
see.
that time period when they're their most annoying. It's
Yeah.
when Lewis was at McLaren.
It's a good perspective to get from you who's done this a few times. It's seen careers come and go.
When they're young, they're really annoying. They're really annoying.
Oh man.
So you have to get through that phase, and then you're like, you start to grow to them. You're like, oh yeah, we're just like each other.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I am Sebastian's age. I think I'm a year younger than Sebastian.
Really?
Yeah.
Look up his age right now.
I think he was born in 87.
Really? He's my age?
July 3rd, 1987. It's 36.
He is younger than me.
All right, really?
Yeah.
What year? What month are you?
June.
June.
He's a month younger than me.
That's so crazy.
What a punk.
Yeah. Nothing makes me feel older and more depressed than someone who's retired.
When I
from
see
the
like
sport.
Sebastian like in that car where they make fun of him how he has like a receding hairline. Yeah. I'm like, man, this guy's had a long career.
Yeah.
What an old guy.
Yeah, what an old dude.
I was like, when am I going to start my Formula One career?
Yeah, exactly.
There's still time.
There's still time. I got time. But yeah, I'm like, maybe it's because Sebastian and I are the same age that I kind of go, I feel you, dude.
Yeah.
I want to be with my kids. I want to be home with my kids more. There's a lot of parallels that I feel to like what he's gone through. But I think, again, Kimmy's older than me.
Yeah.
Fernando's older than me.
Yeah.
Lewis is older than me.
Yep.
And those guys are all still racing. So Sebastian was an early exit.
He was, yeah.
Comparatively. But Daniel's a little younger than both of us.
Yeah, he's like 34. He's 34.
So he's a year
33,
younger
34.
than me.
Yeah.
34, 1989.
Yeah, he's got plenty of years left.
He's got time.
Yeah.
It's a great question because I think there is a lot to be seen in that way. Who's gonna age like a fine wine?
Yeah, and it's weird to also put in their perspective, like Drive to Survive. Like, who are they going to keep trying to create characters out of and follow storylines with? It's like, how's that going to play into it? Who?
Zach Brown. Get out of here.
Yeah, we won't miss him.
At some point, that's going to happen.
When we're back.
It's the worst. I need to add one more thing to it.
So good. You need to get the penny whistle thing. The slide whistle.
Yeah. Daniel's 5'10"?
Yeah.
He's tall.
Yeah.
I'm
5'11".
You're 5'11"?
So that's why I see myself as Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, I think I see myself as Sebastian.
How old?
5'9" and 36. I'm we're very similar people. I'm just not the gym.
Remember when I did that full-on spreadsheet of all the world champion drivers and their height?
Yeah.
And like over half of the world championships have been won by a driver who is 5'9".
5'9".
It's like Lewis, Sebastian. I want to say like one of the Prost or Ayrton Senna.
Yeah.
They're all the same height.
Literally the same height.
It's interesting.
I feel like the engineers are just like, the engineers are just planning on 5'9".
Yeah, like the car's built for a 5'9".
And then they get a Yuki and they're like,
son of a...
What in the hell?
We got to put some weight somewhere.
To throw lead in the car.
Out. Hey, well, thanks for joining us for this episode, the first one of the Fast Ones show.
Yeah.
We're stoked about it. We're going to have some fun going on in the future. It's just going to be a fun ride as it always has been.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you guys joining us. Also, just being so accepting. Like, thank you guys for accepting this.
Yes.
In advance.
Yes.
Because we don't know if you do yet. But thanks for accepting us and this change. We're grateful for it.
Send us any questions on Instagram or email.
You can still email us at dashaasboys@gmail.com.
Yeah, it'll be a couple weeks where we shift it over just to get all those emails keep coming in.
Yeah.
Any complaints you have, send them to the Haas chap.
Make sure that forwarding address is correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Because otherwise we'll just trash him.
But yeah, he'll be our correspondent. We'll get some news out of him.
For sure.
All right, well, have a good one.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
One small
podcast.
You take the nerdy glasses off of Haas F1, and it's a
smoke
fine
show.
looking
It's a
F1
smoke
team.
show.